Welcome everybody to the 5,000 meeting. In the 105th year of Rotary Club of Long Beach, which happens to be the home of Reading by 9, Feeding the Future, Centennial Park, Camp Enterprise, and the largest provider of student scholarships to Long Beach City College, Cal State University Long Beach, and so much more. Glad you are with us on this momentous, consequential, and benchmark day for our club. We'll be celebrating the history of our club, our local and global impact, and we're going to do it through the lens of esteemed leadership of our club, our past presidents, and to facilitate our journey today will be none other than a very consequential and past president, Randy Gordon, who has been eating, sleeping, breathing the journey to this 5,000th, at least over the last several months. I hand this meeting officially over to him. Please, let's hear for Randy and his amazing work in preparation for our meeting today. Randy.
I want to thank Madrid and Jennifer, who helped me so much with all the sponsors, and I'll be reading those later on, but I'm going to save my remarks for later. We're going to get right started with number 96 for the inspiration, Greg Heffler.
Randy actually gave me this prayer that was written in 1943. Think about it, was World War II then, and it's amazing how this prayer still is relevant today. So here we go. God, give us men, and I had to put in women. God, give us men and women, because of the word. A time like this demands strong minds, great hearts, true faith, and ready hands. Men and women whom the lust of office does not kill, men and women whom the spoils of office cannot buy, men and women who possess opinions and a will, men and women who have honor, men and women who will not lie, men and women who can stand before a demagogue and scorn his treacherous flatteries without winking, tall men and women, sun-crowned, who live above the fog in public duty and in private thinking. Amen.
That was 1943, the war years. And now, would you welcome to do the pledge, number 92, a face you might have forgotten what he looks like, Brad Willingham.
Thanks, Randy. Please stand and join with me in the pledge to the flag of our country.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Jack Hinchy could not be here to give us the two-way test, but we have the four-way test, number 75, Greg Owen.
It's really ironic that here I'm standing in front of you, number 75, and the 5,000 meeting of our club, and that matches my age. What the heck is a reality, really? You know, it's my pleasure to be part of this celebration, but to be a part of recital of the R4-way test. It's the motto that we all live by. It was created by a gentleman that was hired to turn a company that was bankrupt and in horrible financial straits around. The ethics within that and the culture within that organization were deplorable. He suffered through a couple of nights trying to put something together that he could put in front of all of his employees and customers. It was very important to him to see that. And he created our four-way test. My youth leader in the district, Brian Russell, we had a Interact conference, and that year was a special year for the Interact conference for the high school, leadership that was there, but also we had the middle school leadership that was there. And in that conference, we had a four-way test committee, and these kids knocked it out of the park. If you don't believe that these kids know what the four-way test is and what it's all about, they really are an example of everything. So if you would repeat after me, of all the things we think, say, or do, number one, is it true? Number two, is it fair to all concerned? And three, will it build friendship? And finally, last, beneficial to all concerned.
Thank you. Greg was referring to Herb Taylor, who started the four-way test. And now for the speaker song. Number 101, Steve Keeshan.
All right, come on, with there and really get into it.
Thank you. Now for the introduction of our guest, number 98, Brian Russell.
Welcome, everyone. It is my honor today to introduce our guests. So, please, we're going to start off with John Mulvey, guest of Rich Dempsey. Welcome, John. There you go. All right. Second is Paul Kaminsky, guest of Olivia Mazer. Paul. Hey, Paul. Raymond Cervantes, guest of Olivia Mazer. And last but not least, Rich Archibald as guest of Olivia Mazer. Stand up, Rich. Stand up. And Benita Sivamani, guest of Julia Ross. We are visiting Rotarians. My good friend Joe Partis, Los Alamitos, Seal Beach. Welcome. Randy Hill from Los Alamitos, Seal Beach, and Art Remnant from the same club, and Danielle Furnell from Los Alamitos, Seal Beach, and from our Santa Monica club, Connie McGuire. Welcome, everyone.
Larry Jackson, you're up. Where's Larry Jackson?
I'm right here.
All right, Larry. You're up, Larry. Number 81, Larry Jackson.
Thanks, Randy. We are here today to celebrate Jenny's birthday. Jenny, can you stand up and join us? We have pictures today that are about a half a dozen cakes and goodies, and I'm going to ask Jenny to give us a little bit of background on family and all that you've traveled pretty much the North American continent to celebrate your birthday.
It was a 4-day birthday celebration like we do in Mexico, I guess. So that one is with my kids, Sebastian and Esteban. That's my favorite trip card. I love that one. So we have that with the family. And then that was on Sunday. That's my whole family with my mom. Everyone came to celebrate my birthday Sunday. And then, so the one on the left is at the store. My crew get me a cake, which was amazing. The one in the middle is from Tijuana. We went to a place that is called Los Arcos, amazing, so I love that place. And on the right is my mom. We went to see cats. So it was pretty special to spend time with her. So it was a very long 3 or 4 days celebration, but love it. And I love everyone in it on my celebrating part of it.
So for those of you that don't know, Jenny's, August, just brand new member, and Taco Shore. So come on down and enjoy yourself at Taco Shore. Happy birthday, Jenny.
Now for the announcements, please welcome 103, Molly Beck.
Today we have 3 of them, so pay attention. First one, tomorrow night, Rotary Connections, 5:30 at the home of Steve and Priscilla Hockett. This is, I think there's a flyer on your table, I might be lying. Come bring a prospective new member and a beverage to share, usually in the form of a wine bottle, but you pick. This is when we introduce prospective new members to our club and to Rotary in general. It's also a great opportunity for Red Badge members to come and get to know more Rotarians and spend some time with us. This is the last one of this year. We won't have another opportunity until January. So start looking for people. You don't have a lot of time, a few hours. Make it tomorrow night. If you haven't responded to the Evite invitation, please contact Judy Ross. Put your hand up, Judy. Judy, stop talking. Put your hand up. I'm in a hurry. Randy's standing behind me. Contact Judy directly so we make sure we have you covered. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, this is a personal favorite of mine. Next week at this meeting, the Feeding the Future Grab and Go. Happening during the meeting for the first time ever, another monumental event. This event supports the students at Long Beach City College and Long Beach State that don't have enough food. It's a sad day when a student doesn't eat when they're hungry, but instead waits for an important class or an important test so that they are literally fueling their learning. Now, it's startling, but 1 in 4 college students. Did you get that stat? 1 in 4 college students has food insecurity. Translation, they don't have enough food. That's all wrong. We're making a difference in that. We have been since 2019. Next week, you'll help fill 1,500 bags of food with food and hygiene items. Then the food pantries at the colleges will distribute them. Here's how the day's gonna go. We need volunteers to arrive as early as 9 a.m. to help set up, okay? And that's here at the Grand. Lunch will be available from 11:15 to 12:30. That's not a typo, 11:15 to 12:30. So come, eat, go fill bags. And then we also need volunteers to stay after to help load the bags into cars so we can deliver them to the campuses. It's important. Dress casually, wear your Rotary shirt or get a little funky and reuse your costume. Lunch reservations are still required, so make sure you see Madrid. I'm sorry I'm pointing at you. Sign up with Diane Donaldson if you can be here for the morning or the afternoon. We'd like to know how much help we're going to have. And Red Badgers, this qualifies as a community service event towards your blue badge. So we made it easy for you. Okay, that's 2. Number 3, Randy Kemner and his staff at Wine Country are hosting their annual 5 o'clock somewhere in advance of Thanksgiving, so we all know what wine to serve with turkey. It's Thursday, November 8th at the Wine Country on Redondo in Signal Hill. Randy's also graciously offering us, Tuesday, I lied. Tuesday, it says it right here, I swear to God. Randy's also offering Rotarians a discount that evening, so bring your shopping list. RSVP through the Evite in your inbox, and I'm done with announcements. Thank you for your attention. Class of 103.
Take it away, number 99, Greg Bernite.
Thank you, Randy. So I had some trepidation when I heard that President Alfredo was introducing something known as the Rotary Bear. My initial thought was that it was a new RI activity for clothing optional service. I'm relieved to find out that it's actually a little travel gimmick. So Teresa, go on, you stand up. I think you are featured. So we got Teresa Cornwell and Lauren Lyle. They are going to walk us through some photos of their recent vacation, I believe. So our first slide. Yeah.
Okay, don't touch the mic. So we went to a few different cities, Zurich, Paris, and London. We started in Zurich, and Goran actually had a couple business meetings, so the Rotary Bear and I got to play a little bit. You can see in the top right, they have takeaway wine bars in Zurich. It's completely legal to walk around with your glass of wine through the streets, so In the middle picture, you can see the Rotary Bear enjoying his glass of wine there by the nice Zurich River with the city lights in the background. He enjoyed running around and eating with me. We had croissants and pastries and all kinds of goodies. And then when Goran joined us, we were able to walk around the cobblestone streets of Zurich and of course took the Rotary Bear to see some sights. In Zurich, it also has St. Peter's Cathedral, which is the largest clock face in all of Europe. So that's on the left there. And you can see the the Rotary Bear in action, taking flight. We decided, what would the Rotary Bear enjoy on his little trip to Europe. So decided to do some action shots of the Rotary Bear. So the first one's, with the St. Peter's clock face in the background. Interesting fact, if any of you broke out your Rolexes for this 5,000th meeting, you'll notice that the 4 is not the typical Roman numerals of the I and D. It's actually 4 sticks. And that is based, we think, that's what our tour guide said anyway, based off of this clock face in Zurich. So there you go, a little interesting fact for you.
Yes, so following the trip to Zurich, we actually trained over to Paris. And we spent one evening there, and we said, all right, while we're there, we're going to take a walk up the actual. I wanted to take the elevator. She said, no, we're going to walk up the Eiffel Tower. So what had happened once we got there, we finally found out that it was closed, that we weren't able to make it. So obviously she wasn't too happy, neither was I, but I didn't really feel she was doing the walk, so I kind of turned around and did one of these. So what had happened, we took a few pictures there with the Eiffel Tower and the Rotary Bear. Obviously it seems that he was
thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
The following day, we took the train over to London. It was a couple days before the Queen's funeral, and we just took a few pictures of Westminster Abbey there. Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, number 105, Dennis Smith.
Randy, what's your watch say? I got 7 minutes or 8? Oh, look. We're doing the caption contest today. Say that, Kelly. So we've got 5 captions, but before we start real quick, what was your caption that was rejected?
I chose to abstain.
Oh, okay, probably pretty smart. All right, our 5 captions for Kelly directing the orchestra. Number 5, no, we are not playing Name That Tune, and please pick up the tempo. I think that's a Rotary. There's the side. Number 4, I don't like this. I thought I was supposed to sing at Rotary. Dave Woody. Number 3, you better nail that high C or it's going to be the castrati for you. Number 2, Randy has been a great accompanist, but it's time for Rotary to up its game under my baton. From Braden Phillips. Did you just volunteer? And the number 1, drum roll, please. We are breaking out the big band for our 5,000th Rotary Club meeting from Rotary.
The first thing I want to do is I want to thank the sponsors that paid for all the coins. And it's kind of ironic that those coins cost exactly $5,000. Here's the sponsors: Bob Luskin, Molly Beck, Steve Hockett, Frank Mule, George Bell, Alfredo Arprez, Greg Gill, Valerie, Greg Owen, Craig Cross, Steve Kiesel, Adriana Lanting, Matt Kinley, Robin Gordon Peterson, Gail Swander, Steve Shaw, Dennis Smith, Rihanna Cree, Whit Ladder, and myself. Thank you for raising the $5,000. Before I start with our first past president, I have a few words. Well, welcome to the 5,000 meeting. It's finally here. I remember when I said to Alfredo when he was selected president almost 2 years ago, I said, the 5,000 meeting, according to my calculations, is going to happen in the fall of your year. And you should start thinking about something really special. Well, fast forward to several months ago, he asked me to run the meeting. So how could I say no? I was honored to do so. I dove into the research, but it was much more than I thought. My intention, quite frankly, was to skim and glance the rotograms that started in 1921. We have bound documents in 1921. But what happened is I wound up reading almost every word, taking notes, typing those notes up to give to these 5 past presidents today. So if you have an average of a 20-year period of each of these folks, using 46 meetings a year, times the rotogram, which went from 1921, and unfortunately the written word stopped in 2007, and that's another discussion we'll have to have. I estimate I read almost 4,000 weekly rotograms. I think I have more history in my head right now than even the Godfather Craig Doherty. Now the question is how long it will stay there, I don't know. This club has such an incredible history. So many famous members, J.J. Montel, our first president, Ray Green, Harry Buffum, Odie Wright, the Bixbys, the Dohertys, the Hancocks, the Walkers, the Herzogs, and those last 2 names, by the way, were 3 generational Rotarians. I feel like I know them as I followed their achievements for decades. Famous speaker, Ronald Reagan spoke twice to our club. Ted Turner, Dennis Weaver, Betty White, Richard Carpenter, Dear Abby, the Dear Abby, Richard Rooney's second, third, or fourth wife. Paul Harris himself spoke to our club twice. And we had several other setting Rotary presidents, dozens of Rotary International past presidents, setting governors from California and other states, hundreds of senators and congressmen, dozens of Olympians, Rayford Johnson, Bob Richards, our own Pat McCormick, John Neighbor, Janet Evans, baseball greats, our own Long Beach, Bob Lemon, Tommy Lasorda, Billie Jean King Moffitt spoke twice, USC, UCLA, Long Beach State, Stanford, all kinds of football coaches from all over the West, and a real hobo. Dozens of rear admirals, vice admirals, commanders, and POWs, and many, many faith-based speakers as well. As I made my way through this fascinating history of 2 world wars, the Deep Depression, the Korean and the Vietnam conflicts, I experienced what club members did for their fellow men. Selling war bonds, to donating ambulances, to eating soup and crackers at Rotary lunch so that a dollar could go to the needy. Rotarians giving of themselves, serving their country on their battlefield, giving blood, volunteering to help wounded soldiers at the Navy hospital. The editors over the last 80 years of rotograms wrote a history of this club, which will be captured for many years to come. They wrote about men and later women who loved their country. They loved their God, they loved their families, and they loved their fellow Rotarians. They were gentlemen in the finest sense of the word. It was a real pleasure to have met them through the imagination of those very talented writers, the editors of the rotogram. I wish now to go back in time a little bit and just show you a couple quickies that you might enjoy. This is right here, the first known rotogram, August 3rd, 1921, Tom Merrill, our president, 5th president. The slogan at the top says, "He profits most who serves best." Number 2, this is, pardon my little self-service here, but this speaker was a student from Long Beach Poly High School. The subject was the value of your Chamber of Commerce in 1934. A little self-serving because I put the work in, so I did what I wanted to do. This is a rotogram from 1923. Rotarian's duty to his Chamber of Commerce. Eat your heart out, Jeremy Harris. This is the Long Beach Rotary Boys Band in the late 20s. Check out this demolition party. This looks like the real deal. Now, this is Gene Bixby Smith's grandfather, right here, Llewellyn Bixby, who's in charge of the golf tournament in 1924. Member terminations. If you drop the club, they put your picture and they put... And I want to tell you, every man had a tie and a coat on until at least probably the 70s. This is the one and only Paul Harris, who spoke to our club in 1925, and later on he spoke in 1941. This is Harry Buffum, Mr. Long Beach. I'm telling you, nobody, in my opinion, was more beloved than this guy by reading the rotogram. Remember, he died in 1968. He was 42 years in Rotary. This quote, one year they had, what do you have to be thankful for? He says, "I am thankful to God for my continued American privilege of heading a free enterprise in which 1,200 wonderful individuals comprise my team at Buffum's." Check this out. Can you read it? Let me help you. I didn't make this up. Don't kill your wife with work. Let electricity do it. This is the real, honest to God, this is an ad. At the bottom, why use gas? This is our history, folks. Listen to this. This is a debate from 1937. George Craig of Angels Abbey Mausoleum versus Stanley Talbot of Westminster Memorial Park. Would you rather be slipped into a crypt or slapped in the face with a spade? The judge was Daddy Motel, our first president. He was the oldest dealer in underground novelties in Long Beach. He was an undertaker. There's so many of these. It was hard to choose. These are craft talks. Fritz Herzog, who's the grandfather of Life, and Lars, who was in our club for a while, and he was talking about the eye. And they did lots of craft talks in those days. Picture of the Week, Rotary magazine, 1940. Fritz again, in his official capacity of the medical examiner of the Naval Aeronautics, looking over stewardesses applying for airline jobs. Here's another debate. This one's for you, Rich Archibald. The subject of this was that the newspaper is more dominant factor, this is 1939, in sustaining and creating public opinion than the radio. Check out these stickers. These are pretty fancy stickers for 1955, promoting the district conference and the 50th anniversary of the convention in Chicago. Our club really promoted these two events every year very strongly, like you better go. It was really interesting. Times have changed today, huh? All right, this was the New Look Rotogram in 1949, the year I was born. This is at the Pacific Coast Club. Ronald Reagan speaks on what price freedom in 1962 at the Lafayette Hotel. President Gus Walker, yes, the Walker family, presiding. Reagan later spoke as president of the Screen Actors Guild. All right, here's our four famous women. Okay, and this is the 19... And that's Rody Park from 2004. And now I'd like to begin the journey. Make your way to the podium, number 71. Here we go, the Roaring 20s, surging economy, era of mass consumerism, prohibition laws, the Great Depression, the Dust Bowl. I give you number 71, The Godfather, Fred Doherty.
Don't worry, Randy, this will be shorter than I thought since you just gave half my speech. Well, it all started 105 years ago when a man named Granville Savage visited with 6 local men to share his enthusiasm about Rotary. He was a member of the New York City Rotary Club, which was the 6th Rotary Club to be formed, following, of course, number 1, Chicago, number 2, San Francisco, Oakland, Seattle, and our sponsor, Los Angeles, better known as LA5. Always interesting that 4 of the first 5 Rotary clubs were on the West Coast. The club's 15 charter members caught the vision of creating an organization that would cement friendships, contribute to the community, and elevate business ethics. And on November 1, 1917, Long Beach became the 340th Rotary Club in the world. Our founder's policy of quality of membership has remained the bedrock of our organization for over 105 years. As Randy mentioned, J.J. Mottell was our first president. He was a funeral director, and he became a legend because on every one of his birthdays, he went down to our first project, which was the Long Beach Day Nursery, and celebrated birthday with the kids, including a little girl who doesn't forget it, Beverly O'Neill. So last time he celebrated his birthday, the cake weighed in at a modest 42 pounds. So, it says pause for laughter. Okay, so. Now our first meeting was at the Ritzy Hotel Virginia, which was called one of the 5 great hotels in the West when it opened in 1908 on the bluff side of Ocean Boulevard, just east of Magnolia. It had a nice view of the new light. It was supposedly in the same league with the Hotel Bell and the Fairmont in San Francisco. The cost to stay in one of the 250 rooms, $850. $8.50. That's inflation. In 1909, the owners of the hotel felt they needed a place for the hotel guests to play golf. So, in 1910, they formed a country club named after the hotel in a eucalyptus grove near a recreation park. And this answers the question, why is a golf course in Long Beach, California named the Virginia Country Club? That's the reason. 10 years later, the club moved to a 135-acre tract of land next to Rancho Las Cerritas. One of the leaders of the move was Rotarian Llewellyn Bixby Sr., grandfather of our own Gene Bixby Smith and great-grandfather of our great past president, Mark Bixby. In 1932, Rotary moved to the Masonic Temple at 8th and Locust, and then in 1936 to the posh Pacific Coast Club on Ocean Boulevard. The new club had some very interesting speakers and topics, as Randy mentioned earlier. We had the man himself, Paul Harris, who appeared live and in person Armistice Day in 1924. Another subject, the humorous side of astronomy, something most people didn't know about. Here's one we're all interested in, America's Perfect Husband. Here's one, personal experiences with Mussolini, women in aviation. Finding your voice, the subject of portable talking motion picture equipment. Let's Lick the Depression. And I have a strange feeling this one was loaded into the script at the last minute, which Randy mentioned. One of the topics, the value of your Chamber of Commerce. Now, our founders must have been a very romantic group because there were 4 programs on this subject. The Romance of the Date, The Romance of the Ranchos, The Romance of Retailing by Harry Buffum, who was president of Buffum's department store, and the perfect follow-up to the other 3, The Romance of Birdlife. Now, speaking of Harry Buffum, little quiz right here. Who knows the cultural icon in Los Angeles that is named after Harry Buffum's sister? Anybody? Oh, come on. It's the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion. The maiden name was Buffum. And I got to be honest and tell you, earlier, before anybody got here, I asked Dennis Smith and Greg Bernite the same question, and they both answered the same, the Fantasy Castle. That is not correct. By the way, back open again. Now, there were 2 natural disasters that occurred during this period, one of which most people have heard of, the other not so much. On March 10, 1933, at approximately 5:54 p.m., our fellow Rotarian Dale Hoskins was taking a shower at the downtown YMCA when suddenly the ground started moving. Naked as a jaybird, he bolted out of the shower, grabbed a towel, and raced into the street to safety. The 1933 Long Beach earthquake had begun. The ground shaking lasted for 10 seconds. The quake on the Newport-Inglewood Fault had a magnitude of 6.4, and the epicenter was 3 miles south of Huntington Beach, 8 miles deep. Sadly, 52 people died in Long Beach and over 500 were injured, many with falling debris. Property damage estimated at $50 million. For us Wilson grads, a very sad casualty of the quake was our beloved 5-story high Campanile Tower at the school entrance at Eximino and 10th was weakened by a huge crack and eventually demolished. Sadly, it was never replaced. Then, on September 25, 1939, the only cyclone to make landfall in California slammed into Long Beach. The winds reached 72 miles an hour and 5.262 inches of rain fell in LA County. Much of Long Beach was flooded. Property damage was estimated at $2 million, most of it along Ocean Boulevard. I left a picture back there if anybody has interested to see what the peninsula looked like with the waves that smashed against the boardwalk during the hurricane. Caught off guard by the gale force winds and heavy seas, 45 boaters perished in the Pacific, many of them fleeing Catalina for their lives. One of the most important things that happened during this period was the creation, of course, in 1929 of the student loan program. 5 years later, it was incorporated into the Long Beach Rotary Scholarship Foundation, which we will hear more about later. So, we were all talking down here, no matter how long it's been, it scares the hell out of every past president to see Randy Gordon with a microphone. Nothing personal. So when I look back at the first 20 years, I'm reminded of the old saying, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. Working together, our founders created, without question, the best service club in Long Beach, while at the same time benefiting hundreds of others with their good work. Thanks to them, we have a lot to be proud of.
The war years, from sorrow, patriotism, hope, American dominance on the world stage, post-World War II, boom, Cold War, civil rights. Welcome, number 76, Russ Hill.
Thanks, Randy. Probably most of you don't recognize me. But I was going to be out of the country till yesterday, and Randy asked me to do this, and he said, I'll do all the research and I'll just give you something to read in this. Which he did. He gave me 24 pages of notes yesterday. So beware when Randy comes calling. Gordon Doherty joined this club in 1957, and he and my father, Stan Hill, went to high school together. Also, it kind of gives you an idea about East Long Beach. But one thing that my father always told me, there are three things. Don't put your hand in the garbage disposal when it's running. Never ask a lady, are you pregnant? And never follow Craig Doherty to the podium. So I got 2 out of 3 anyway. So the war years, we can't really know what they were thinking or how they felt, but we can get some approximation from some of the program titles, and I picked out some of my favorites. Hitler's Fifth Column, Here and Abroad. America's Battlefronts. War's Effect on Shipping. What's like to live in an Axis-dominated Europe. The Commandos, Prelude to Invasion. There were some notes in a couple of the Rotarygrams that kind of gave a feeling about how people felt about this, and you can imagine how it dominated their thinking. In 1943 and 44, 11 of our members are actually in the armed forces. Others have been members of selective service, rationing boards, home defense councils, and many responding to blood bank appeals. Many worked in defense plants. They supplied funds to provide ambulance equipment and participated in many ways. The club hosted Navy Day, Army Day, and Coast Guard Day at the club during the pre- and post-war years. 50 U.S. Navy fighting men were wounded in action in the Pacific, were now recuperating in the Navy hospital and were feted by the club. There's a quote in 1943, which I think is one we can think of today. What did you do today for freedom? An almost overwhelming sense of the differences between our always-on and upfront view of conflicts that we have today with social media and their desire to know and understand what was happening. Post-World War II, Bo. By the way, in 6 minutes I'm going to cover the entire history that he mentioned. No problem. How many people here lived in Long Beach in 1950? Pretty fair number. Long Beach was really built on defense, the Navy, and oil. The defense business, one of the premier ideas, premier exemplars was Douglas Aircraft. And looking that up, John Douglas was a speaker here at Rotary. You know the Douglas Aircraft, where they got their reputation? The first around-the-world air flight was a Douglas Aircraft, 1944. I didn't know that. It was a major boost for Long Beach, which Douglas ranked 5th among all U.S. corporations in the value of wartime production that produced almost 30,000 aircraft, many here in Long Beach, and worldwide swelled to 160,000 employees. A lot of the Rosie, the Riveter pictures that you see came from Long Beach and Douglas Aircraft. Post-World War, the economy was not so good as they had to let go nearly 100,000 employees. And really that change from a war to a post-war economy dominated Long Beach for about 3 decades. The Navy was the next big pillar here. In 1940, the city of Long Beach needed 100 acres on Terminal Island to the Navy naval station and the naval shipyard. Fortunately, they kept the mineral rights. But the shipyard actually was closed in 1950, then reopened for the Korean War, but it sank about 15 feet due to subsidence. So we had a real issue in Long Beach. And we haven't really replaced the Navy yet. In oil, you may or may not know that the Wilmington field was the 3rd largest cumulative production field in the United States, with about 3 billion barrels of oil. So when you see those offshore islands, it was important. So all of that was reversed as all these leftists. The Cold War itself, there were 13 programs that mentioned the Soviet Union and Russia. 3 of the ones that I liked that didn't mention that but were about the same was the war, the world today, the post-war world, and current post-war political problems and military strategy. My guess is that they were subject to all the fears of the unknown that seemed to dog our conflict with the Soviet Union. Our Long Beach Club, as Randy mentioned, and Craig, drew some interesting speakers. We had Rotary International Presidents Tom Davis, Walter Head, Charlie Wheeler, and Angus Mitchell, U.S. Senators William Fulbright and Thomas Kuchel, and the President of American Airlines, W.A. Patterson. But we had our share of other programs as well, other in quotes. We had Samoan knife dancers. We had a program entitled, What Do We Do Until the Psychiatrist Gets Here? You can't make this stuff up. We have the most beautiful girls in the world. You may know that the Rotary Club sponsored the Miss Universe pageant for years, and they had 100% attendance every... They had a brain twister for the giant brains. So some of these I'm not really quite sure what they were, but I like the titles anyway. Some programs actually seem prescient. None of them named you, Randy. It's okay. Our amazing two-party system and direct election of the president, abolition of the electoral college, and we're still talking about it today. The California-Colorado River problem. Rotarians and their secretaries. I'm not sure what that would be. And here's a good one, streamlining our pronouns. I have an idea what that would be. Life was different. Rotarians were amazed by new technology. 3 of the titles were Television Today and Tomorrow, Demo of the Mighty Mike transistor radio, and color film on the state of Nicaragua. I guess because it was color film. It's good to remember how quaint these were, that people will be looking back at us that way. The club operated. In 1947, new members had bright yellow in caps on their badges, and finally we stopped calling them baby Rotarians. We socialized. 1947, the President's Dinner Dance at the Pacific Coast Club, dancing, bridge, gin rummy, corsage for ladies, $10 per couple. $10 per couple for all of that. But of course, with inflation, it's $135. The 4-way test, which Greg worked, was formally adopted by this club in 1946, but the original version of it was, is it profitable to all concerned? This was later changed to is it beneficial to all concerned? So we moved from the Pacific Coast Club to the Hotel Lafayette in 1954, and several moves later, here we are. I joined 15 years after this period. I'm now the longest continuous serving member and probably the least useful member of the club. Probably 3 things stand out to me. One, Randy mentioned those pictures, the white shirt and tie. It was white shirts, white men, and ties. And that's been changed. A little slowly. Women were guests, or they were Rotarians, and now, finally by 1987, when Gene Smith came into the club and others, we've come a long way, we've got a ways further to go. And the 4-way test is still a pretty good way to make decisions. One thing I would say is I hope the past results of all of Randy's hard work will be posted someplace so you can see those notes, because it really gives you an idea of what the club came from. Thanks, Randy.
Civil rights movement, the Vietnam War, political assassinations, emerging generation gap, pivot and change in world history, economic upheavals, and post-war economic boom. Please welcome number 104, McKinley.
Thank you, Randy. You've done a tremendous job, no doubt about it. 80% of success is showing up. We all know that. And over the years, we've really focused on how great Rotary is at service, but how important it is that we create relationships. And just showing up to a meeting, you don't know who you're going to touch that day, who needed a nice word, or who might be having problems at home, or who you really helped. And you multiply that by 5,000 meetings. It's a tremendous accomplishment. You should be very proud of what we've done over the years. In 1961, when JFK was president, the Long Beach Rotary Club had 289 members. In 1970, when Richard Nixon was president, Long Beach had 329 members, a 40-member gang. We were doing something right. We met at the Elks Club, and which is here, really, where it used to have that dome with the elk at the top of it. We met at the Petroleum Club, and finally, in 1974, we met at the Golden Sails, where many a tale had been spun, and someday we've got to just have stories about the Golden Sails, I suppose. The Rotary Club was always about service, and we've continued that service today. Each year we raise money for the Good Sam Club, which is like our charitable foundation now, mostly by presidents standing up here and fining Rotarians. In just one number that stood out when I read about all of this, in 1972 our club raised $250,000 for the Good Sam Club that was donated to the community. And in 1971, a Rotarian gave $1 matching for every dollar to the Scholarship Foundation, up to $50,000. So we've been forever working on a community service. During these years, Rotary began its plant visitations or offsite meetings, which are still favorite today. We went to the YMCA, the Long Beach Naval Station, the new Memorial Hospital, the new LAX, which was the largest airport in the world at the time, the General Motors plant in Van Nuys, which is an archaic thought, right? And then the new City Hall, which just got torn down. We started evening panels during this time too, and another favorite thing that we do. The topics were a little bit different. One was the preamble to the U.S. Constitution. One was positive thinking on the issue of Americanism versus communism. 200 members attended that particular evening panel dinner in 1968. So those years were firmly in the hands of the greatest generation that Russ talked about. And you can tell from reading the programs and the things that they focused on. But the 1960s and the 70s were, of course, very formative years for baby boomers who started joining this club at the time. And since our average age in this club's about 80, I think, a lot of those members that joined are still here today. I won't name you, but you know you. So the events of this time still affect us today. When you think about the significant social issues of Vietnam, the assassinations and the civil rights struggles, it's interesting to see how the Rotary Club dealt with it. And it's not too much of a stretch to say that there weren't many deadheads in the Rotary Club. There's not a lot of history on how Rotary reacted to these issues, but you can look at their meetings. They had a meeting with Robert Frischman. You might have heard of him. He's a Long Beach native who flew 128 missions in Vietnam and was shot down. And he spent 683 days in a Hanoi prison. So while there were protests outside, inside we were honoring the military, which I think was an honorable thing to do. Several meetings seemed to focus on the communist threat. Again, there was a joint service club meeting. We used to have those for some of the new members. COVID kind of stopped it. Hopefully we're going to have them again. But the Optimists, Aquinas, or SOAR Optimists, everybody got together for a joint meeting. And that was on the Navy and Vietnam. Other programs like the power of Mao Zedong, the threat of communism were big meetings at the time. They also focused a lot on the Apollo program, which of course was a source of pride at the time, the mission to Mars, mission to the moon. And there were speakers on Mars and Space Lab, and all during that time the growth of the space program. Steve Horn did speak. Everybody, if you remember, Steve Horn was the president of Cal State Long Beach in 1970. And when he came here, he must have had just spoken about the unrest on campus, but it's interesting there's not too much to find on what the club thought about those issues in the day. Not many women speakers either. The first woman member of the New York Stock Exchange spoke to our club, and Connie Chung spoke to our club, the Channel 2 newscaster, but that was a Valentine's Day lunch, so that might have been a little different. As Randy mentioned, Ronald Reagan spoke to our club twice. The club also had something called the annual stag dinner, and I learned that for the first time. They were very well attended. I'm not sure what happened at those, but the 74th stag dinner honored guest was Vicki Cunningham. She was the jet bunny on Hugh Hefner's jet plane. during this time period, too, we see two executive directors mentioned, and Madrid, and maybe Karen should pay attention to this. The first one was a lady named Thelma, who's in the late 1960s retired after 27 years, and the club presented her with a new Buick. The first mention of Karen Ryrick occurred in 1979 as our new executive director. So, I hope you keep attending, and remember, being here is one of the most important things you can do. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Okay. Materialism, consumerism, rise of the yuppie, blockbuster videos, emergence of cable networks, MTV, AIDS crisis, relative peace and prosperity, Soviet Union falls, Cold War ends, rise of the internet, radical new era of communication. Please welcome number 100, Jane Latusky.
Thank you, Randy. The advantage of being the fourth of five speakers is most of my talk has already been covered. So I'm only going to cover those pieces of information that you haven't already talked about. The changes our club during the period of time, this period of time, were truly fascinating, and I want to thank you for allowing me to share a few of them with you. They speak to the principal character of our members. As our club membership grew to 430 members, we began to transition away from a traditional check writing club to a hands-on service club. The world was becoming more accessible, and Rotary was extending its global reach. Rotary International announced a $120 million Polio Plus campaign to eradicate polio worldwide, and the Rotary Club of Long Beach was assigned a goal of $168,000. The generosity of our members and family and friends was simply unbelievable as we exceeded our goal by $40,000. Mike Stromberg was the Polio Plus chairman. Polio Plus donations also qualified as Paul Harris Fellowships, and this resulted in a record-setting number of Paul Harris Fellows awarding 20 Paul Harris Fellows in 1 week. So that's pretty impressive that we raised $220,000. It's our largest campaign ever during that period of time. Thanks to the efforts of our one member, Bill DeLacy, Ted Turner came to Long Beach to be the keynote speaker for our Polio Plus celebration dinner in May. In 1988, at the Hyatt Regency, 350 members attended. 350 members and guests attended. At the last minute, Bill suggested that we make Ted Turner an honorary member of the Long Beach Rotary Club, which we did, following a very hectic last-minute board meeting. Turner expressed his gratitude for this honor, noting that his father was a Rotarian in Georgia. Turner's name subsequently appeared in the Rotary roster with the name of his spouse shown for a while as Jane, spelled J-A-N-E. We are probably the only Rotary club in the country that had an Oscar winner in the Best Performance by an Actress category as a Rotary spouse for Coming Home and Clue. Fun fact. In 1987, the U.S. Supreme Court issued its landmark ruling against the exclusion of women in service clubs on the basis of gender. I was honored to join the club in 1987 with several other remarkable women, including Jane Netherton, Jean Bixby Smith, Cam Killingsworth, and other wonderful women. 5 years later, Rotary International has 37,000 women members, 32,000 in North America alone. Cam Killingsworth became our first women president in 1998, and today, women make up an impressive 43% of our membership. In 1982, the Good Samaritan Fund gave out $31,000 to local charities. The Good Samaritan Fund consisted of fund finds to celebrate and recognize members for birthdays and special noteworthy accomplishments. Presidents dispersed the funds raised during their year to the charities of their choice. In 1991, the Long Beach Rotary Charitable Foundation was formed as a 501c3 nonprofit corporation, making all contributions to the fund tax deductible. The Articles of Incorporation were signed by Greg Owen and Whit Latimer on August 27, 1991. Remember that? The Long Beach Rotary Charitable Foundation continues to fund the heart and soul of our club, community grants, Camp Enterprise, Centennial Park, literacy, and Reading by 9, and you'll hear more about that. In recognition of the City of Long Beach's centennial year, the Centennial Sports Trophy began in 1988. It is awarded annually to the Long Beach High School with the best all-around male and female sports programs. The goal is to perpetuate and recognize athletic excellence in our young athletes. Russ Hill launched Camp Enterprise, a program he learned about at the Large Club Conference. It was a 3-day interactive program for high school students to learn about business. I know many of you are still involved with that great program. Rotarians share their business experience and provide tools to help develop entrepreneurial interests and talents. Camp Enterprise continues today, with Rotarians serving as camp instructors to help student teams create their own business plan, make a business plan, and learn about the importance of teamwork, an important thing today that we can use more of. The most significant change was in technology. The PC was a Time Magazine Man of the Year. For the first time, a non-human received the award. Time Magazine had been naming the Man of the Year since 1927, but broke with transition in 1982 to name the computer the Machine of the Year. The computer moves in, and personal computing comes of age. The greatest influence for good or evil is not a man at all. It's a machine, the computer. Had a tremendous impact on our club as well. Ironically, the writer of the story wrote it on a typewriter. Fascinating. Since the Times newsroom would not get a computer for another year. How about that? Randy, I want to thank you for the information you sent me. I know you're very strict about sticking to our 6 minutes. So thank you for the 15 pages of bullets. I'm just going to, now that you're standing, I guess I'm just going to rattle off a couple of them. I eliminated most of them because I didn't think you would be standing up. Okay, so let's see, greatest hits here. The four-way test celebrated its 50th anniversary. The club moved from the Golden Sails, the birthplace of Table 13, and Rotary South, the legendary gathering place, to the Queen Mary in 1992. I'm not sure about this one, but you wrote it in there. Karen Wyrick wins the Long Beach Ski Club downhill race. Is that right?
Yes, that's a true story.
And I'm going to close with my favorite. Diane Creel of Earth Tag joined the club in 1991. She would hire Randy Gordon at the Chamber in 1994. And the rest is history.
Can I make one comment?
Quickly.
Quickly, yes. I just want to remind everybody next on November 9th, on Wednesday, is 33 years since the Berlin Wall fell. So it's a big day.
All right, thank you. All right, global financial crisis, collapse of the U.S. subprime mortgage market, Apple One iPad, climate change, Paris Agreement, same-sex marriage, UK leaves EU. Please welcome number 83, Frank Newell.
You know, I always thought it was when I chose Randy as an assistant to the president for me that's what changed his life. This is a dream gig for me, following 14 past presidents to the podium. I'm actually here a little earlier than I thought, so I can go through some of the material that's been given to me. Picture yourself as we're about to embark in this century. It's the last meeting of the 20th century. We're on the Queen Mary. We have 325 people present. George Deukmejian is receiving a Millennium Award. We're hearing for the first time how much money we raised in the first year of a project called Reading by Nine. Our speaker that day is Tommy Lasorda, who regales us with tales of baseball, life experiences, etc. In the Rotarygram that day, they had a quote that I think was interesting about that day. It was a fitting conclusion to a memorable century for a remarkable Rotary Club that promises to continue with great promise into the new millennium. Back then, we actually had Rotarygrams that looked like this. There was a published book for each year that the presidents received. And we fretted over Y2K, but I kind of wonder why, since we were mailing out Rotarygrams and everything was in print. But as president, I'm happy to report we survived Y2K and entered the new century. I made a calculated risk before today. I asked all the presidents during this era to give me 2 bullet points regarding their highlights. I found out that 2 bullet points equals a minimum of 4 paragraphs. And for a number of them, it included at least 2 emails. My favorite was Molly Beck, who first of all told me she was traveling, so she could only give me a half a page of 4 or 5 items. But she'd get back to me when she got back in town. And she held true to her promise. She got back and she gave me a list of 10 or 12 highlights, at which time I had to jokingly tell her the program was more than her year. So anyway, I got a lot of material to work with, some of which I will use today. We've talked about speakers, programs, etc. And a common thread from all the past presidents was how important the programs are, the meetings are, and the speakers are in order to maintain the vitality of this club. And we have had a remarkable array of speakers, some of whom Randy discussed. In the last 20 years, they've included Betty White, Richard Carpenter, and even Cal Worthington. Every mayor, every university president, 2 former governors, sports legends like Jerry West and John McKay, Olympic gold medal winners like Rafer Johnson, Janet Evans, John Neighbors, Bob Seagren, etc., etc. We even had Dennis Smith's Uncle Tony, Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy. But I also found out that presidents thought a lot of those events, which were really faux pas or disasters, became their most memorable. Whether it was the speaker who didn't show up, the speaker who showed up at the last minute, or the speaker who came to talk about X and decided instead to peddle Y or Z. Whit Latimer gave me an example of his holiday luncheon where his featured speaker was going to be the author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul, and was going to provide inspirational stories and how the whole thing progressed. After 2 minutes, that was the end of that, and up on the screen came his newest book, How to Become an Instant Millionaire. So those are the type of things that sometimes the presidents face when they have meetings such as that. I'm reminded of Molly Beck, who in her Zoom meeting had the first recorded F-bomb by a speaker. Blake Christian, who, like many of us, had the technology go to hell in the middle of his board introduction and called it the worst day of his Rotary presidency. So we have our ups and our downs. But the meetings, the programs, the speakers, they're the bread and butter. They keep us coming. But I think over the last 20 years, what really defines this club are the milestones in the community service. In 2005, Rotary celebrated its 100th year. And for 3 years, first presidents, let me think, Jim Worsham, first Whit Latimer, Jim Worsham, and Randy Gordon. Oh, I'm sorry. Jim Worsham, Mark Bixby, and Randy Gordon were working together to create an idea and a plan. The board approved what became known as Centennial Park. Then we had to sell the idea to the city. Then we had to raise $150,000. And then we had to design and build it. But 17 years later, you saw the picture earlier, it is a vibrant reminder of what Rotary does in this community. It is a focal point for our remaining Rotary pride, maintaining the park and having events there on a regular basis. In 2007, this club had its 90th anniversary. And at that time, Jane Netherton was president. And we planted 900 trees on a single day, courtesy of the Conservation Corps, and had the president of Rotary International plant the first ceremonial tree. In 2010, Carl Ann Wiley became our third female president, but also the first and only husband and wife presidents, because her husband, Don Wiley, served in 2000 and 2001. We've had milestones that we'd probably like to forget, like that tragic Wednesday in 2011 when an airplane went down on the Long Beach airport and we lost our former youngest president and community leader, Mark Bixby. The only redeeming parts of that are, number one, Mike Jensen is with us. Number two, the Bixby family named our Rotary Scholarship Foundation as one of the beneficiaries, and the Scholarship Foundation matched the donations to create the Mark Bixby Leadership Award, which we give every year to our outstanding Rotary scholar. In 2012, after only 33 years, Karen Wyrick retired. And was replaced by Madrid Zimmerman, who 10 years later is gladly still with us. As somebody who was around in the 80s and 90s, our club sometimes didn't have the best relationship with the district. But I think over the last, and that's putting it mild, but over the last 20 years, I think that relationship has improved markedly. And we have also upped our ante in participating in Rotary International projects, such as Caborca, where we have provided polio vaccine for years and years under the stewardship of the late Terry Guiley. The Mozambique Water Project, I understand we're starting our third water project. I think David Watt has taken over for that, I hear. And each one of those has provided water for 2,500 people in the area in Mozambique. We also, a couple years ago, under Gloria Cordero, went to Navajo Reservation and provided water for the Navajo Nation. So the biggest, I think, ceremony was 2017 when we celebrated our centennial. And I believe we probably all remember that Jane Lestuski was president for part of it, Steve Kiesel another. We had leadership from Cam Killingsworth, a million different committees. And among other things, we raised over $300,000 to fund the Storytime area and literacy childhood area in the Billie Jean King Library. Since then, we've been funding that with books. We've had a visit there. Unfortunately, the COVID experience has slowed down our involvement with that, which I'm sure will pick up. And Randy, you can sit down for just a second, please. In 2019, we started Feeding the Future, which has already been talked about, which is a wonderful continuing program. And I think one of the remarkable accomplishments of this Rotary Club is we not only survived, but we excelled during COVID. We went from meeting on the Queen Mary to all of a sudden meeting via Zoom. And I think during those dark first days where we're all confined to home, the chat rooms and participating by Zoom was a welcome relief for some of the drudgery and monotony. And as I said, we didn't stand still. We created a program where we did face shields for assisted care facilities. We continued Reading by 9 and raised over $60,000 in a Zoom meeting. And we also accelerated our Feeding by the Future, and we were more active with giving books to kids. So as we come out of the pandemic, it's great to be back in a live meeting. It's great to be back with all of you today. And I think we can all be proud of where this club is today. We talked about Camp Enterprise. We're celebrating the 30th year of Camp Enterprise. Yeah! And it is fully endowed because of the generosity of the Stuber family and past President Henry Meyer. Reading by 9, by just starting at the start of my presentation, 2 weeks ago we had our 24th yearly fundraising, and as a result of your generosity, we raised over $125,000. Meaning that the future is bright for the youth in our area. And I think that's what Rotary has become. It's become an organization that deals with youth projects from preschool to college. Our Scholarship Foundation, which has not been talked about enough today, has given over $6 million of scholarships. Every year we award over 200 scholarships to students at Long Beach City College and Cal State Long Beach. And on November 9th, we're having a meeting here again honoring all of our scholars, and we hope you all can attend. So I think we're in a great place. And as I reflect back on the Rotarygram that I read at the start, I'd like to paraphrase that and put it in today's context. From my perspective, today is a fitting conclusion to a memorable first 5,000 meetings of a remarkable Rotary Club that promises to continue with great purpose into the next 5,000 meetings and beyond.
I want to thank Rich Archibald for being here. You probably have rider cramp now. He's been going a mile a minute. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for. I finally said to Karen, you have to tell us today who was your favorite past president of the 33 years. And she has an answer. All right, Karen. I'm coming here, Karen.
Finally, now it might be one of the 15 this year, are you ready to tell us your favorite past president?
Yes, it's been very difficult. I have searched and searched in my heart and looked over the past and considered everyone. But since this is being done today, this is a special day, I decided that you had to show up today. So that way, I think we have 15 past presidents here. But 6 of them were not under my
control.
So since I didn't have a chance to do that for them, I left them out. So now we're down to about 9. So that made it a little easier, but of course, the ones that are here are my favorites. So now I have to come to one more, I guess, only. So I've searched, I've looked up, and it helps me today to hear all the things that have happened in the past. So some were kind of interesting. So I am ready to say this person is the best. I just have to say he is my favorite of all, if you will help me. This is my favorite.
Madrid, come forward. 10 years. Madrid, 34 years term. I want to thank all the 5 past presidents and all 15 presidents. You may not ever get 15 past presidents in this room again. God bless you. It's been a great journey. I really enjoyed it.
Paul Harris, Ronald Reagan, Mr. Buffum, the Bixby's, the Walkers, the Sam's Club, the Golden Sails. What an amazing history, all chronicled apparently in Rotary grams for 105 years. And what a legacy, what a history that we get to stand on. And it kind of connects the dots a little bit about what we do and how it is bridged to the past. And we're part of that unbelievable legacy and history. I just can't thank past presidents and Randy, because this was a task, but it was a labor of love. Let's hear it one more time. He gets a new Rotary pen. We can add that to his big collection. He gets to inscribe a message on this book. It is named Skulls. It is not a reference to past presidents. It's not a reference to Halloween. It's actually about head injury prevention. So we'll have you inscribe a message for the Rotary Storytime Theater and the Village E. King Library. Also, of course, we sang Randy a song, lyrics that are personalized to him. So of course, Randy, you get your own customized fun song from our Rotary Club. Let's hear it one more time for this. So I've been preempting this meeting with my ending tagline. I don't even know what I'm going to do next week, because this has been the 5,000th meeting of the 105th year. This meeting is officially adjourned.